Hey Internet, it's RJ. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning into the show today. Now, today's episode, we're talking about my love-hate deal with business cards. Love to hit them for the intro offers, but when it comes to using business cards for the actual use that they're designed for, business spend, they are less than lacking and super restrictive and just cost you earnings in the long run. So, of course, if that sounds interesting to you, go ahead, press the subscribe button, and let's get to work. Now, as always, around here, we play hardcore cashback, and we're known for a few things, trying to build out the best 5x back setup we can of credit cards and trying to maximize our earnings. But this is also a business, which is weird to say about a channel and a website, or two channels and a website, but it is. It's an actual business registered with the state, tax ID number from the IRS, the whole deal. So again, I love business cards, going after them for the intro offers and things like that, and they do fill some gaps in my wallet. But when I tried in the beginning of 2024 to use a business card for the majority of the business spend here, because that's kind of what you're supposed to do, right? You're supposed to be able to create a separation of personal and business expenses. And granted, we don't have that many expenses here, but I was like, you know what, try to do it, see if it makes it easier, or how it actually goes. And the short story up front is I don't care for it because business cards are limiting on earnings, and it costs, I feel like it costs too many points given what you get for it, honestly. So I'm probably going to switch back to just maximizing earnings. So that's the upfront part. So let's explain a little bit further here. So how it's supposed to work, what we're talking about is, again, as we said, you're supposed to be able to show a separation of personal and business expenses. Not only does it make things easier come like tax time, end of year, just for expense reporting and things like that. If the greedy government ever kicked in your door and asking for questions or more money or whatever, you can easily show the paper trail. Now, two things here. What's the difference between a personal and business card? Really not that much. They're both personal guarantees, because we're talking about small business credit cards. They're both personal guarantees, which is if profitable content fails, I still have to pay it, the same as if my, Chase Freedom card, if I go bankrupt, I still have to pay it, right? You can put whatever charge you want on the card. They don't really care. We will talk about that a little bit at the end, but you can use them the exact same way. Swipe it. You're borrowing money. The person gives you your thing. You're well on your way. They work the exact same way. Again, the main difference is you can put a business card in a business's name, which makes the documentation look pretty and match up, because that's kind of what you're trying to do. So if you take it from the top, again, the idea would be you start an LLC or something with your state, get its own tax ID number, open up a bank account in that business name. Of course, mine is with American Express. Hey, don't you hate American Express? Kind of, but three reasons why I picked them is, one, because it's hard to find good user interface. It's hard to find a free account to use, and it's hard to find accounts that don't cost you a churn, because, again, the second channel run on the bank is focused on churning bank accounts for promotions. Amex, notorious, once per lifetime, so it kind of fits. So you get that, you give the tax ID to YouTube or Google, who then pays you into that bank account, and then you have something like cell phone bill, for example. You go to Verizon and you say, hey, can you put this in a business account for me? Sure, no problem. Now you've got everything in the same name, paying one another, and so all your documentation matches. That's really the point. Then at the end of the year, you can pull down one set of statements and you're good. Most people would find that helpful because, again, most people just don't want 50 different credit cards. However, as we said, the problem with business credit cards is they seem a little bit lacking because they're designed for business spend, if you will, but the banks are also trying to protect themselves, which means, my business card that I've been using is the Blue Business Cash card, this one from American Express. But it's technically is a 2% card, but it's 2% capped at $50,000 a year, which isn't a problem for me here. But the point is, most business cards are capped at 1.5x as a catch-all. The newest, the Wells Fargo Business Signify, is the first to punch up to 2% back. So that right there, the personal card table minimum is 2%. We're already 0.5% under. Then you look at it, there are some useful 5X cards, but in this wallet where I keep all my keeper cards, the only real keeper cards I have that are business cards are the Chase Ink Cash, which is 5X back, cell phones, internet, and office supply stores, because as you would imagine, that's a business type category. But even on business type categories, you still see business cards fairly capped. The U.S. Bank Triple Cash card is a good card, but it's capped at a lot of 3X categories, not much 5X to be had in the business space. You can give a shout out to the Business Gold, but it kind of got nerfed and the fee increased. They removed some categories that folks like shipping. So you can see when you've got this many cards, this is much more easier to earn with than a limited blue business cash card. And so that's really what it is, because I don't have a ton of spend here, but for example, most of it is internet based and like gear if I want it, just because reasons, right? So like we do run ads for the channel, and you can find a card that does Google ads for like 3%, right? The Inc. Preferred would do ad spend. Or hosting the website is like $500-600 a month, right? Or you can put it on my Bank of America customized cash, which is 5.25% back on online shopping, thanks to being preferred rewards, and get 5.25% back on that. And on the surface, it's probably fine, but over the course of a year, it adds up, especially if you wanted to get into buying a lot of stuff off Amazon, whether it just be like a cable or something like that. 5% back Amazon or 2% back on this. The Blue Business Cash, considering that, yes, I also pay, the Amazon Prime fee, and sure, the Prime membership shipping still works. I'm sure you could get a business version of that, but you kind of see my point there. So I've really kind of just got annoyed with using business cards for their normal spend because it's lacking. And sure, there is a level of convenience, but there's also no rule that says you can't use any cards you want for business spend. It doesn't have to be in the company name. Again, it's just to make everything easier. As long as you remember to pull down your receipt and to, try to make sure that you're paying that portion of the bill out of, your business account, or at least reimbursing yourself almost, that's enough documentation that you should be fine. So it's not really a necessity. Again, for most people, it's just going to make things easier. But overall, again, you can see how many keeper cards I have, and I find business cards to be very lacking. Sure, there are some. The Ink Cash is good. The Huntington Business Voice is a good card. The Triple Cash that we've named already is a good card if you don't have a lot of cards, but you can still find better cards if earning is your point. Why, the point, it's hard enough. My goal is always to get $5,000 a year in credit card rewards. And so that does take a level of having to maximize everything you can get, because it gets harder the longer you go, because there's less and less intro offers that you're eligible for, especially with something like the US Bank Smartly card being out now. I'm getting 4X back. That's the thing that really pushed me over. Am I really going to go another year getting 2X back where I could just easily get 4X back? Probably not, because I'm too greedy. Now, let's just say you wanted to do this for real, and you didn't care about earnings. We still kind of run into potentially a few other problems. Then one real problem, and that is, for most of our businesses, banks are issuing credit cards with extremely low limits to protect their own interests. So the Bank of the U.S., the Amex is what happens when you have too many cards. The American Express BBC card that I've been using, I got approved that for a $2,000 limit, which for this is fine, because again, we don't have that much spend, but technically I should have 3 business cards, one for here, one for house number 1, and one for house number 2, being rentals. And so house number 1, yes, yeah, you don't even know the cat, doesn't really matter. But house number 1, I need to replace this front door, storm door. It's a long story, but it's like $5,000. And I've only been issued one business card that would have covered that in one swipe, and that was Bank of America. But I also have $100,000 with Bank of America, so I hope that they would give me a little bit more of a credit limit, even though that's on the personal side. American Express, their credit cards, $2,000 each. Sure, you can get one of their charge cards if you wanted, but now you're right back into annual fee territory and earning even less, because it'd just be 1X back, potentially, unless you're using the gold card, maybe, depending on the category. My US Bank business cards, you name it, all of them, my Chase cards, $3,000 was like the max. So depending on what you're trying to do, the business cards may be very limiting to you to start anyways. That Amex card is now up to $6,000, but that's over almost a year of having it and them slowly increasing. I never asked, but they just slowly increased the limit. So you could definitely run into issues like that as well. Besides, we've already covered at length the cards being pretty limiting. Now there are some, I would say, benefits to it, aside from the record keeping stuff like that. If you did have an actual business, and of course you want to issue employee cards, obviously that's much easier. Some of them come with much easier rule setups where you can restrict spend. Some of them you can even require folks to upload receipts depending on how far you want to get in there, which program you want to go with. But that's the main thing. But again, as we said, there's no real rule against using personal cards. You wouldn't get shut down for it. The one thing I have seen, primarily through Reddit posts, is someone like I've seen this a few times. It was most prevalent on the Robinhood Gold card, which is still newer at the time of taping. They were trying to protect themselves. So if you were running large amounts of spend through it, Robinhood would say, oh no, that looks like a business expense. We're not going to give you any points, or we're going to close your account, right? They're more so trying to protect themselves. And then the other side of it would be, I don't think I can find it, but I remember a guy who had a Capital One Saver card, and he was like a sales guy. He was booking large amounts of entertainment spend, tickets, venues, dining halls, the whole deal as part of his job, running it through the entertainment category of the Saver card. Of course, they shut him down because they say, hey, this is business spend. They don't know for a fact it's business spend. They're just to say, hey, this is way too much money. We didn't anticipate a person to reasonably use our card this much. So you can run into that, but then you run into like the weird thing we just talked about. You can go business card, but again, depending on the type of business that you're running, how much money you're actually making, well, your credit limit's going to be pretty low versus using a personal card. But if you really get out there large sums of money and cycling it, I suppose something could happen. But if you're just using your Ink Cash to pay your Verizon bill and it's in your personal name, no one cares. They're never going to care. I use my Ink Cash I used it when I had a personal account. I use it when I had a business account. No one cares, right? So I wouldn't worry about too much about that. So I guess the answer probably to this problem comes down to how much do you care versus how much do you care, I guess, is actually the answer. Because, if you care greatly about your record keeping and being meticulous in having those records so that if the greedy government comes and asks or questions you, you just have them, knowing full well you could be that big of a record keeper and they could never come and ask, then you could just set up a system for yourself where you're always tracking the receipts and making sure you're reimbursing yourself at the end of the month. That part shouldn't be too hard to do. Or if you just don't care about doing that, then you could just opt for the business credit card as well and keep it simple. But for me, I think business cards, I've tried it for a year. They're far too limiting if you're trying to earn stuff, and it's far too easy to just set aside a few minutes at the end of the month or something and keep your records. And by all means, if you know where the records are at, if they ever do ask, you can just go get them as well. That shouldn't be a problem. But yeah, again, reimbursing yourself is probably the big one. You really can't retroactively go back and do that past a certain amount of time. I wouldn't think. I'm not an accountant. I don't know. But anyhow, that's my love-hate with business cards. I'm still going to keep hunting business cards. I still do want my Wells Fargo Signify. If I was going to pick one to use, it would probably now be the Signify card because, one, it's uncapped and they don't do the weird cashback thing that Amex does, where Amex won't let you stock up your cash back. They just put it on your statement every month, so it's just never-ending use of trying to use the cash back, but they only give you credit for it after you've paid the bill, so you've got to use it. It's a whole thing. But anyhow, that would probably be my pick. So let me know down below what your thoughts are if you run a business. I know we have a lot of folks here, some who flip technology, flip cell phones, some who do drop shipping, etc. I'd be interested in your thoughts on how you balance the two, or am I just obsessed with earning every single point that I can get? Both things can be true, I guess. But of course, guys, if you like this one, drop me a thumbs up down below. If you find it particularly interesting, consider subscribing to the channel. So we're posting content just like this every single week. And of course, right back every Sunday with all the news you can use in the week that was in credit and finance. And of course, every single day over on ProfitfulContent.com. The channel's blog, it's always linked down below for you and on the channel homepage. We now have the latest news stories. We have bank promotions, so if you need a business credit or business checking account, we got you. And of course, we have credit card offers too. So if you need a business credit card and you want to give it a try, well then why not get stocked up on Profitable Content? Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this one. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you very soon in the next one.